Hello everyone, it's Butter Bob. This video is going to be about exercise. Exercise. Did you exercise? What kind of exercise did you do while you're losing weight? Exercise. Really, the question is, what exercise do I need to do to lose weight? This is a big question, and it's always uppermost in people's minds. And I think it is because it's been drilled into our head over and over again for decades. What about exercise? Well, guys, this is what I want to talk about tonight, and I really want you to hear me out on this. Sometimes we need to separate the question. Why don't I stress exercise on this channel? The reason I don't stress exercise is because I do not believe that being fat is a lack of exercise problem. I do not believe being fat is an overeating problem. I believe being fat is a hormonal problem. Really. For most people. Not everybody. But for most, some people have other issues. They're taking medication that causes them to gain weight and hold weight. They have some sort of physical problem that's causing them to gain weight. But for the vast majority of people who are overweight, being overweight is a hormonal problem. And in my opinion, it's mostly a problem with the hormone insulin. So let's talk about exercise. First off, exercise is fantastic. There is nothing that I love to do more than go for a walk, especially a walk in a nice park, a walk out in nature somewhere. Years ago, when my wife was still alive, we used to go to my favorite park, it's Burgess Falls Park. We used to go there almost every day and walk these trails. I mean, they're up and down and steep inclines. We would go all the way down to the bottom of the falls. We would do this every day that it was the weather permitted, and during the good months of the year, even when it was cold sometimes, because we enjoyed it. It was good. And we didn't lose any weight. We didn't lose any weight at all. I also been to the gym. And you can go to a gym, any modern gym, where they've got all these stair steppers and elliptical machines and all kinds of equipment. You see people at the gym, they go there year after year, month after month. You'll see the same people. And yeah, it's good for their mind. It's good for their making friends with other people. It's good for their strength. They're getting stronger. Their endurance is better. They're doing themselves a lot of good, but they're not losing weight because exercise is different. It's a separate issue altogether. Is exercise good? Heck yeah. It's really good. It's good for your mind. It's good for your body. It's good for your endurance. It's good for your ability to move around. But is it good for weight loss? And I think most of you that have tried know that it's not much good for that. I don't stress it. I don't stress it in my work because it really doesn't help people that much. I know that's not the correct thing to say. I know that's not the thing that people want me to say. But the truth is the truth, guys. Now, I want to tell you something about this. A few years back, and I've got it wrote on this little card here. A few years back, there was a very large study that studied right close to 40,000 women for about 12 years. And they broke them down into groups. women who exercised about 7 hours or less a week, women who exercise somewhere between 7 and 21 hours a week, and women who exercised 21 hours or more per week. Now, here's the thing that gets these people on the internet excited. The people who moved around more did way less. They did, on average. But after 12 years of their intense exercise, they neither gained nor lost any more than the people who were basically couch potatoes. They just didn't. And all the women that they studied, on average, in this whole entire study, gained weight over the period of 12 years, regardless of how much exercise they did. In another study, Dr. Timothy Church divided women up into 4 groups. One group was to do no exercise at all. And then the levels went up. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. On average, after 6 months, the women who were doing the most intense, the most amount of exercise, lost an average of 1 inch. After 6 months of this, 1 inch off their waistline on average. And here's the thing that's going to get you. The people who exercise not at all still lost a little weight. They lost about 2 pounds. But the exercise group only lost 3.5 pounds in 6 months. In other words, they only lost 1.5 pounds more on average than the ones who did no exercise at all. Listen, guys, I'm not against exercise. I'm just not going to stress it because I know the truth about what's going on with weight gain. Listen, when I first started this process, I had a job that was pretty physical. You know, I had to walk around a lot, but I was in intense pain most of the time. So more exercise than I had to do in my job was painful for me. You know, I've met many of you who have a very difficult time doing exercise because of the shape your body's in right now. But I'm going to tell you something. There's hope for you because exercise is not the magic bullet. The magic bullet is changing your hormone pattern in your body. That's what it is. Because gaining weight is a hormone problem. Listen, guys, I work in a factory. Well, I know many people who work in this factory, and some of them get these little wristband things where they can tell how much they've been walking. I know people who are obese in my factory, and I'm sure you do in your own line of work, and they average 7 miles of walking a day in a shift. That's a lot of physical movement. Now, people say, well, that's not exercise. Well, you know, you do it sometime. You walk around for hours on end and see if it's not exercise. It is exercise. It hasn't helped them. They're still overweight. I know people who sit behind a desk every day and they're thin. I know people who sit behind a desk every day and they're heavy. See, it's not about the exercise. Guys, when you think about, say, your children growing up, you have a little boy, a little girl. They're growing up. Until the age of puberty, there's not a whole lot of difference in their body makeup as far as their fat or their weight. You let the age of puberty kick in, and you're going to see that hormones have a lot to do with where fat is going in your body. The little girl will gain fat weight in certain areas that the little boy will not as they grow up. Obesity is similar to this because the hormone insulin, if it is out of whack, if it is too high, causes people to be in a fat storage mode. That means that they are storing more energy as fat than they should be. And that fat energy is being held in those areas for a longer time than it should be. So if you want to change this hormone problem, and by the way, before I go any further than that, somebody's going to say, well, I eat carbs all day and I don't gain weight. Good for you. Because, there's study after study after study showing that people who have on average, a normal insulin pattern, they're probably not going to gain weight. Even I, at the weight I'm at right now, I could sit down and probably eat a big piece of chocolate cake and never gain an ounce. That's the truth. But if you have a insulin level that is high all the time, and if you need to know more about that, watch my video, Why Are Fat People Hungry? And some of my other videos, I explain this in great detail. If you have that problem, then you have a fat storage problem. You are over accumulating weight as fat, and your body doesn't have the hormone pattern to allow that fat to escape when you're not eating as easy. So if you want to lose weight, it's not exercise that will fix that problem. And it's not really eating less that will fix that problem, although it helps. It is changing the hormonal pattern. So we change it with food. We eat foods that do not increase insulin and control our appetite, and we fast, which also brings the insulin down. My work is focused on the real problem and the real solution. Bringing insulin down. Exercise is another subject. It is good for you in many ways. Your mind, your strength, your body, everything. It's great for you. But it is not what is going to make you lose weight. I'm sorry. If that makes me unpopular, or you don't like it, or some expert tells you I'm wrong, I don't know what to say to you except that I know it's not true. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if you fix the hormone problem, you're going to lose weight, whether you are able to exercise or not. But here's the thing. When you do fix the hormone problem and you do reduce your weight and you do reduce the inflammation in your body, in your joints, and you start feeling better, and you can access the food that you're eating easier. Your body is able to use that food instead of storing it. All of a sudden, you feel like moving around more. You have the energy to move around more. When you lose 100 pounds, it's going to be much easier for you to move around. You're going to naturally move around more. See, that's the thing, guys. Do fat people move less? No. But it's harder for them to move. It is. It takes more energy to move. So when it takes less energy to move, it's going to be much better. So listen, guys, that's my answer on exercise. As you guys know, I need to do some weight exercises. Weight training is good for insulin resistance, by the way. It really is. And it shapes your body. It makes you feel good. It's good for you. Walking is good for you. But if you're relying on that to lose weight, I don't think it's that effective, and it's not effective long term. Because I'm going to tell you why. If you do a lot of intense exercise, you're going to be also intensely more hungry. You just are. Your body's not stupid. If you're forcing it to do more work, it's going to need more fuel. And if your more fuel is a candy bar and a cold drink, and you increase your insulin level, and your body stores a lot of that food that you just ate for the extra energy you need, then you're just going to be hungry again. You know, it's a self-defeating loop. Don't let these people get this whole idea wrong and confuse your mind on this thing. Your problem is internal, more than likely, internal hormone problem. And it's a hormone that is easy to fix. Really, it is. You can bring insulin levels down. And as your weight comes down, your background insulin level will go down. And if you want to know more about that, you have to watch my the 50% insulin problem video. Anyway, that's my answer on exercise and weight loss. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to this channel, I'd appreciate it if you did. You know, I'm going for a goal. I'm trying to get that silver plaque. Thank you so much. Goodbye.